habari nyingi gushi. Kutakuwa na habari nyingi gushi kama tulivyoona, nafikiri tarehe 13 mwezi Aprili mwaka huu Busia, ambapo mpinzani mmoja wa kisiasa aliweza kuchapisha habari kwamba mpinzani wake amehama chama cha Jubilee, amehamia chama cha Jubilee kutoka ODM. Hii ilikuwa ni kati ya bwana Sospita Ojamong ambaye ni gavana wa sasa na mpinzani wake Paul Otuoma, ambapo kulingana na gazeti hilo lililotengenezwa Busia ambalo lilikuwa kwenye kichwa cha habari cha Nation ni kwamba Otuoma amehama ODM amekwenda Jubilee. Gazeti likauzwa mapema asubuhi. Inafanana kabisa na kichwa cha habari cha gazeti la Nation. Nafikiri wakati wa kampeni tutapata habari hizo nyingi sana ambazo ni habari hushi. Nafikiri katika hayo ya kutokea kwa habari hushi katika kaunti ya Busia, upande ambao sisi hatuutaki, basi haina haja tumpigie kura. Nafikiri mpaka sasa mmejua matokeo yake. Kwa hiyo nafikiri habari gushi zitaenea sana wakati huu. Cha muhimu ni kwamba sisi kama wanahabari inafaa tuzingatie miundo ya msingi ya uandishi wa habari, ambayo lazima iwe ni habari inaweza kuthibitika, habari ya kweli, habari ambayo ina chanzo, na habari ambayo inaweza ukiulizwa imetoka wapi unaweza ukafafanua zaidi. Kwa sababu habari hizi zitakuwa nyingi sana, na wengi wetu kutumia mitandao ya kijamii wamekuwa wanahabari. Kwa sababu mtu anakaa tu kama mahali alipokaa, anaandika mambo yake anayotaka, anayasambaza kupitia mitandao ya kijamii, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp na hii mingine ya kadhalika. Kwa hiyo hapo utaona kwamba habari nyingi gushi mara nyingi zinatokea kwenye mitandao ya kijamii. Halafu zikisambazwa zinaenea na zinachukuliwa kwamba ni za kweli. Wanablogi wengi kama alivyosema Mutua hapa, wanablogi wengi wanatumia habari ambazo hazijathibitishwa. Hizi ni habari gushi. Ukiambiwa kwamba yale ambayo huyajui kuhusu Mutua, lakini namba 5 itakushangaza, utakimbia kwenye namba 5 ukaangalie. Kwa hiyo nafikiri habari gushi ni sisi kuwa kama wanahabari tuwe makini sana wakati huu, na tuzingatie zaidi misingi na miundo ya habari wakati tunapozitoa, ili kuhakikisha kwamba hatujiingizi kwenye mfumo huu wa kufuata habari gushi. Asante.
Ningetafsiri lakini mtania radhi, hakuna muda. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I have time for 4 questions from you. And I'm seeing Charles, his hand is about to go up. I suspect he wants to respond to Mutua, but I'll give you the last chance last. The lady in red at the back.
Thank you. Back in my country, in our culture, it's only...
Just give us your name first.
Sorry?
Yeah, start with your name.
I'm coming to that. Okay. I was just saying, you cut me short, that back in my culture, it's only men who are supposed to, but since I'm in Kenya, allow me stand. I am called Agnes Nandutu, a political reporter, a political show host, and a satirist back at NTV Uganda. Online social media, fake news, and satire. To me, we are talking about mainstream journalism and then fake news, online, all that. But to me, I think social media is a necessary evil. The question is, how does the mainstream media work together with the social media to serve the public? We all do the same. I will give you an example back in Uganda. When the Assistant Inspector General of Police was shot dead, it was the social media that broke the story. It was the social media that sent the picture of how this powerful man was shot dead. And it is where, at that time, it was in the morning at around 9 a.m. All newsrooms ran around to ensure that they find the truth. That was the help of the social media. So how then should the mainstream, my question is, how should we work together? Because we are depending on each other. The social media breaks the story. It might be fake, it might be true, but you run to verify, and basically it is the social media that has broken the story. It has to be given credit.
Thank
And
you.
the main media has distributed. How should we then work together? Because we are serving the same population. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody this way? Yes?
My question, I'm Michael Ngugi Kamau from JKUAT, and my question is to Mr.
Just speak up.
Michael Ngugi Kamau from JKUAT, and my question is directed to Dr. Ezekiel Mutua. How can the Kenya Film Classification Board help upcoming media professionals in producing and distributing media content, especially for the online platform, in the cheapest and the most professional way possible?
Thank you. Yes, that's in front of you.
Thank you so much, and thanks to the panelists for that contribution. My name is Martha Mbugus, African Nazarene University. My question is to Rachel. She mentioned a very interesting word, humanity as being a value of journalism, and also pressure coming from different places directed to the media. Right now, looking at advertising, and some of the things that go on, when we were pouring alcohol in Kenya, for example, and saying this is a destructive thing, you also had the media advertising big time about the good alcohol. We still have a lot of advertising. Right now, there is a lot of advertising on betting and gambling. Stories are emanating, big time stories from that. I don't know whether gambling and betting are good for us, for our health or not. And I'm wondering, do you foresee a day when advertising will take over from the media, since the media will have lost the moral authority because of profit making, you know, and especially that thing you are calling humanity? Are we there where they are so powerful that the media is really losing out? Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, there's a hand here.
My name is Patrick Gadara from The Elephant. First, I think I totally agree with Sianda's point that the preponderance of fake news is actually an indictment on our mainstream press and its inability to essentially explain the world. And I think one of the things that media really needs to look at is whether when it's telling stories, it's actually explaining what's going on. If you think of the debates we have, just she mentioned about alcohol and the whole furore we had led by the president. But if you look at the statistics, we really don't have a big alcohol crisis. We have localized problems, but the media doesn't actually go out and explain this. But my question really was to Ezekiel, and it's a bit strange, I have to say, when he speaks about politicians creating drama, because I think for a lot of people would think what he's been doing is creating drama. When he's posting his pictures on the aeroplane, you know, and stuff like that, you know, that seems to me to be courting publicity. But my question really is about what you said with regard to morals. Do you see government's role as enforcing a moral code? And if the point of free press is to hold the government to account, should the government be the one to decide how the press will do that and on what basis it will do that?
Okay, thank you. Maybe a very final one here, Maslin.
Thank you. My name is Maslin Nyambala from Association of Media Women in Kenya. I just wanted to follow up on a point by Dr. Ezekiel Mutua, that the greatest threat we face is the poorly paid journalist. And I want to go back to a point by Pamela Sitoni and I thought her comment was very serious. I took her comment as a very serious issue. She said that we don't have enough credible journalists to deliver a just society. And I thought it contradicted the statements earlier in the day that we are number 3 after South Africa and Nigeria, or that we are number 2, I'm not sure. But I wanted to find out, probably from the panelists, is it possible for us to one day have a situation in Kenya where journalists are well paid, where we don't have the largest majority of the journalists working as correspondents? Because the threat is real in terms of poorly paid journalists. A journalist with a pen, a gun, and the consequences we have seen, that Pamela feels that there is no, and coming from a senior editor, we don't have a crop of journalists to deliver the kind of just society that we are envisioning. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll have the panelists respond. Unfortunately, we don't have much time, but I believe most of us are still here, so there's an opportunity to interact. And with that, I have one announcement from the organizers. They'd like to inform you that you need to be holding a voucher by the time this panel ends, if you intend to be eating at lunch hour. So there are people moving around with vouchers. Please secure yourself one. But I'll pass the mic around to colleagues here so that they can respond to those questions. Some are general, some are very specific to many of us.
I think most of the questions were directed to Dr. Ezekiel, but I'm going to.
Okay, I'll go to the one directed to me first from Martha. Thanks for the question, Martha. Yeah, I mentioned humanity deliberately because it's left out of the values most of the time. And looking at where we are today as a country, especially in Kenya, this electioneering period, and that's why I talked about the dilemma of wrong versus more wrong, or right versus more right, because you find yourself in a situation where you're reporting, violence erupts in a place, you could be live, you could be recording, and people start slashing each other. Do you want to let this picture go out to the public? Because that's a fact, it's happening. Or do you then, in your responsibility or humanity, want to respect the dignity of the people being slashed and cushion, and maybe have a long shot if you're on video, or maybe then, not go live and then get those pictures that you think would dignify or respect the dignity of the people to be carried. And the way I say it, it's an ethical dilemma for journalists, because then we also have a responsibility, because like we said right from the morning, we also are members of this country or this society or this community. So yes, that's why I think the issue of humanity then comes to play. And a lot of the times, that is where the challenge comes, especially in elections. It's not about whether people are observing the professional ethics or not, but sometimes they find themselves in that dilemma, and that's where now people begin to be partisan, They begin to relate with maybe their communities rather than staying true to the profession that journalism is, and of course to objectivity. And talking about the pressures of advertising, yes, I still reiterate that as long as we continue to look at our media houses as business entities, then we'll be driven by advertising. And as long as we are driven by advertising, then professionalism takes a second position, because then you're thinking more about what you're making out of your space than the service that you're giving as a service to humanity. So I think the issues that you raise about betting and gambling, I think there have been discussions, motions in Parliament on issues of betting and gambling, which have been thrown out because, you see, I have to run, the media house has to run, and it's generating revenue from that advertising. And so it becomes very difficult to throw that out until there is an option for running the media house. So maybe like I heard from the CS this morning about ensuring that one day KBC is sure to its mandate, where we are that true to them to the mandate of the public broadcaster, then we can throw away some of the advertisements, the priorities to advertisement, and train and remain true to the mandate.
Swale.
Sorry, there was no question that was directed to me directly, and yes, Mutua I think would have answered one which was directly. You did, okay. Now, I think yes. What I would say is that I agree with Martha that you know corporates they would take. First priority when it comes to our media houses in terms of advertising, because they call the shots. The way it is being said here, that most of these corporates, they're the ones which pay our salaries. So you find that most of the time, a story comes touching on a particular corporation, but as you sit to decide on whether to go on with this story, you get a call from your bosses that that story should not go on air, otherwise all the ads will be withdrawn. There was an example in, I think, 2007, 2008, when I joined Royal Media from KTN, that there was a newspaper called The Leader, which was being run by Royal Media Services. It was a weekly newspaper. That paper closed when they touched on Michael Joseph. Nobody, I think, has ever seen that newspaper on the streets or anywhere else, because from that day, and even that office, which was being run by about, I think, 3 or 4 journalists, was disbanded. And no Leader newspaper was ever to be seen from that day, because they touched something on Michael Joseph, who was by then the CEO of Safaricom. And even on that particular day, all the advertisements of Safaricom were withdrawn from radio and television until the management went to negotiate with Safaricom. And they agreed to bring them back. So you can see the effects of corporates in our media houses. So professionalism, of course, will take second place, because which will, at the end, would compromise credibility and the integrity as journalists. Asante.
I want to say about social media versus mainstream media. What I have in mind is that we know our training before the coming of internet was a journalist should go beyond a press release. What this means is that when you get a press release, you do investigations very fast before you release that information. Now we have come to this age. Let us agree that we are going to go beyond a tweet, beyond social media. When you get the information, let us verify very fast before we send it out. So a press release was sent by companies, so they do not own it after it has come to the newsroom. Pick it and use it very well, get the information that gives it credibility, and then you send it. About payment of journalists, I don't know how much a journalist can be paid in order to be happy, because how much is it? If you ask yourself, even those who are not journalists, how much do you need so that you be comfortable? No one can give us a figure here. So it's all about your integrity. We are not talking about how much money. Yes, we know there are some who are paid little. There are some correspondents in the villages who are giving us information to the newsrooms. They are paid little. But as media improve, because most of them have improved for the last 5 years, I know 5 to 10 years, let us also think about how much do we need to be comfortable. And there is no much, you cannot give a figure like myself. If you ask me how much money I need, it will be too much. No one can pay me that. So let us all agree that our integrity as a journalist, one day you will become a teacher if you ate from your associates some money to bend your story, then you are going to teach the same people. Let us be careful, because this life is long and long enough for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me be quick. Agnes, my sister Agnes from Uganda. I agree with you. Social media is a necessary evil. I think how to relate with the mainstream media, that relationship should be actually symbiotic, because there's a lot that we can pick from the mainstream media, discuss in social media. At the very heart of citizen journalism lies a responsible use of technology and the ability for people to publish and to express themselves. And I think that right for people to be able to, with their handheld devices, express themselves without fear or favor, I think it's a great thing. What we need to promote is responsibility. Responsibility should be key. And I think you cannot hide behind social media to escape responsibility for the things that you write. There cannot be a country like that, where there are people who live in another world with us who don't take responsibility for the things that they do. If somebody cues another one on social media, I think what we are proposing, and you might have heard about the law that we are proposing, is that there should be a level of responsibility, whether it is on the internet service provider. The responsibility must be placed somewhere. If you say Ezekiel Mutua is dead, or the way they did with Churchill, and I'm here, there should be a way, for heaven's sake, in which we can know who did it, and if we must, they must record statement. I think hiding behind anonymity to cause harm, to destroy people's reputations, careers, and families. That's why I'm talking about moral values, because I think it goes to the very heart of who we are as a society. But I think citizen journalism is very critical. Social media is important, and I think we should not, in haste, then move towards regulating social media or the internet and forget the benefits it brings. What I'm saying is, we do not place prior restraint. But when the mistake happens, like we did with Legacy 24, those of you saw, when they ran the clip of Westgate attack, and purported it was a terror attack in a market in Alexandria in Egypt, and we told them to bring it down. The take-down principle is a principle that is applied across the world when a mistake has occurred, or when there's distribution of content online that could undermine national security, destroy or affect the rights of children. And I think those should be the parameters. I hope when this matter is being debated, there will be a lot of caution for us not to move hastily and undermine the freedoms and or claw back on the rights and the freedom that we have. Kamau, you asked how can KFCB help in production, creation, and distribution of content in a more appropriate or convenient manner. I think we are doing it because when it comes to online distribution of content, we do not demand that you take a license, for instance. If you're shooting a movie, we demand that you obtain a filming license. That is the law according to Cap 222. But if you're doing it online, I think you enjoy that latitude and you can create content. There is a user-generated content approach, as long as you have not committed, you do not infringe on national security or undermine the provisions or the limitations that are placed under Article 33. So we don't place prior restraint, but when you go like what, was it, somebody Kamau, or was it Mwangi? It was not Boni, it was, but there's a guy who distributed photos of a child online. Yeah, you remember that story that caused a lot of alarm. It was trading for a whole day, where he was bragging of having had sex with a 13-year-old and posted the photos. I think as a regulator, that's where we come in. But you as a person who is creating content and distributing online, one, you don't have to obtain a filming license. That you have a right. Just create a content, ensure that it is safe for distribution. We only come in, and this is what we are proposing, to limit your rights to distribution or exhibition when you have undermined national security or you've gone against the provisions of Article 33 on limitation of rights. And I think moving forward will be keen to ensure that there is a very clear balance and we do not undermine the freedom of the creatives. And then this one on Patrick Gadara. I think, Patrick, what you're saying is true. And don't blame the newsmakers. We create drama to be relevant. I mean, in Kenya, if it is not in the news, it doesn't happen, or it didn't happen. And the thing is, as a CEO who is leading a state corporation, and that's why I was mentioning Atwoli, they remain relevant, or we remain relevant, because we have realized if I say those good things, and Swale has just confirmed here, if I just come here and speak nicely, I will never see, my stories will never see the light of day. So you should ask yourself, why should I treat you, to that bizarre drama and you fall for it? Professional journalists should be able to distinguish between drama and development stories and give priority to development stories. So we attempted to do it because of the way news is crafted in this country. And lastly, allow me to say, the cardinal responsibility or the fundamental responsibility of a journalist is to write a fair, accurate, and objective story on matters of national interest, public interest. The crave for gossip and drama, I think, is what is killing this country. And when the media is in the same class, I saw Duale saying there's corruption among politicians, but there's also corruption among the media. And I think that's where the challenge is. On a day like this, we should say, media is the conscience of society, and they try and live to that.
Thank you, Dr. Mutua. Sianda has decided to take her summary or conclusions to her writings. But she can share a short summary of it.
It's very fast, and it's probably something everyone already knows, but I wanted to say that social media is a skill. It is a battleground, I think. I think journalists can combat fake media as it happens on Twitter. This is something that is happening in a lot of different countries around the world. As soon as a viral tweet comes out with incorrect information and gets maybe 20,000 tweets, there is a journalist who is refuting this, and this gets 40,000 tweets. So if I think news media agencies are kind of trained to use social media and battle in a kind of equal standing, then it is entirely possible to combat fake news. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think the long and short of it, I seem to hear from the panelists and from the questions from the audience, seems to suggest that to us journalists, content must take precedence to form. We must go for the substance and have the courage to bring it home and bring it home right. Join me in celebrating these fine ladies and gentlemen and yourselves for a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Churchill. I think let's appreciate them one more time. Okay, thank you. I have two announcements to make. The first, I've just been informed, one of the many trips I make out and inside the building, that they're called what? Let me look for the proper name. The Kenya Community Radio Network that brings together over 30 community radio stations are having a meeting right here in Nairobi, and they've had a resolution, an official resolution, on what values they'll uphold when they're reporting the forthcoming elections. So they have the values printed on a document, a special document like this, and they also have a press release to go with it. And they're requesting that those of you who are attending this meeting, as you leave for lunch, they are placed somewhere in the information desk. Please take a copy. And it's important because this is what they've committed themselves to. So should they defy any of these values when they're reporting elections, then anybody who has a copy of this document can hold them to account. Okay? Announcement number one. Announcement number two is that when we return from lunch, the structure of the room will change. If you look at your program, I'd like to invite you just to take a look at your program for 1 minute with me. You will notice there's what has been identified as parallel sessions. So we have parallel session 1, parallel session 2, from 2 to 3:20. And then we have parallel session 3 and parallel session 4 from 3:20 to 4:30. Okay. So what will happen, the room will be divided into two. when we return from lunch, it might look strange. There'll be a division. There'll be a division right at the center. And so, you will be at liberty to choose. Parallel session 1 will run concurrently with the parallel session 2, all right? So you can choose whether you want to attend parallel session 1 or 2. The choice is yours. You can't attend both because they'll be running concurrently. One on this half of the room, the other on that half of the room. Are we together? So parallel session 1 will be on the half I'm standing, all right? And parallel session 2 will be on the other side. So you can decide as you have lunch which session you want to attend, okay? And then parallel session 3 will take place on this side and parallel session 4 on the other side. You are at liberty to choose which session you want to attend. There is no rules about where to attend and where not to attend. It is clear? Thank you. I would like now, therefore, to invite you for lunch. If you don't have a voucher, as you exit the room at the information desk, you can get one, all right? Now, lunch is at the terrace, okay? So you exit, go right again, and go right again. You'll find it somewhere there, okay? Exit, right, okay? You'll find it somewhere there. See you at 2 p.m. and have a good lunch.